You're welcome. I tried my best, but I think one of the issues comes with the definition of ancestry and heritage. And I don't think people understand there's a difference between having someone in your ancestral lineage and you actually having that heritage. It's two different things. So, for instance, I could have um, an indigenous person from the 1600s in my ancestral lineage, right? In my genetic makeup, right? But that doesn't mean that I have that particular indigenous heritage today. For instance, I'm gonna say it like this, right? This is a little bit complex, but you know our complex history as African Americans, okay? So, um, for instance, back in the day, I'm gonna go back to the 1800s real quick, right? You would have what we consider now a biracial person, right? Born. One born, and this person was born of an enslaved African American mother and a white father, okay, who was a slave owner. That child, more than likely, would not grow up with an inheritance from that slave owning father. They don't share in that heritage. And this is where many people around the globe don't understand African American history. There were two different heritages there. Okay. One would say, okay, yeah, they're dual heritage. Not in that case, no. Not in that case, no. Not there's no such thing as dual heritage back then. Not to me. Not during the times of slavery when biracial children were being born. Okay. They had a white father and a black mother. Guess what that child more than likely was? Unless that child was freed, that child was born enslaved because his mother was enslaved. That child is black, regardless of his white daddy. When that white daddy dies, his white children are part of that heritage. They inherit. His black children do not. That is the difference between ancestry and heritage. And I think people don't really get that part. And that's why you see a lot of confusion online by people saying, well, I'm biracial and I'm black and I'm black. I'm not. Well, how about and then they try and equate it to being born back then. See, well, they say, well, look at Frederick Douglass. He's biracial. Frederick Douglass knew he was black. Frederick Frederick Douglass knew he was a black man. You can't walk up to Frederick Douglass and say, listen, with all these technicalities. No, no. By genetic lineage, he may have, just like with the rest of us, with some admixture or be biracial back then. But the heritage is something different. And I know some people are gonna try to come eat me up for this, but that's just the truth. At least that's how I see it. Let me go to a definition. So I'm gonna take this one from AI real quick. Ancestry is about what you have inherited from others in the past, while heritage is about how you are taught to be a human. Ancestry is more about what you are, while heritage is more about how you are. Ancestry in a genetic context, ancestry is information about your ancestors and their genetic relationship to you. It can also refer to a person's ethnic origin or descent or their roots, right? Whereas heritage encompasses many things, including ethnic roots, cultural teachings, personal experiences. It can shape your values, personality, and goals. And so here's something like personal characteristics. Personal characteristics come from heritage, like experience, personality, your talents, capabilities, social status, all those things. Like to me, a lot of that has to do with heritage. What you inherit, what I can pass down. Like, so just because I have an ancestor way back in the 1700s that was, well, let's say a white person can have an ancestor who was black way, 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 way back in the day, right? Way, way back in the day. Um, let's say 1600s, right? And then, but that they, okay, they may have something genetic in them that ties them to African Americans. Their heritage may be something different today. Their heritage, they grew up in a white household. They inherited white, 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 white. The things that the white people got back then. You know what I'm saying? Status. They inherited um, slave owning money. They inherited better loans, interest on loans, just because of the color of their skin. They get, they get to go to school. They get to learn how to read. They get an up on education versus um, those who are black didn't back then. You see what I'm saying? So heritage is something, and that would affect how they see life. Do they see, like, a white person back then would not see another black, the majority, not all, the majority, they would not see a black person as equal unless they were abolitionists and said, hold up, this is wrong. They will see them as, inferior. You see what I'm saying? Despite the fact that they may have it's what they inherit. Is they inherit a perspective, and perspectives are inherited. You're taught to have perspectives. So that's a heritage. How you view marriage, how you view these things, how you view all these views. That's a part of ethnicity, and it's also a part of your heritage. The money you inherit, the homes you inherit. Okay, African Americans couldn't inherit anything. There was a point where we couldn't inherit, even if our black daddies bought it. It was our house. When he died, we couldn't inherit anything. There was a point in time when that happened. So that would shape our perspective. It will shape our perspective on how we view government, how we view a lot of different aspects. And what we do inherit, say for instance, our culture, foods. Now we can inherit, or my granddad, he finally, there was a point where black people could leave stuff down to their children, our inheritance now. But see, all of that comes from the heritage, how we speak, how we view things, um how we greet each other, dapping up. These things, our museums, our schools, these things are our inheritance, our national um monuments and everything. You're going to run into a problem. In conclusion, let me sum this up. In conclusion, though, right? You'll run into a problem if you try and take my heritage from me. You're going to make yourself my enemy real quick. But if you might not run into a problem if you say, okay, well, I'm in your ancestry or whatever. This person went in my ancestry. That's the one thing. But if you try and take my heritage from me, yeah, you're gonna run into a problem because we gonna end up fighting. That's the difference.